The US-Iran agreement was meant to bring an end to the fighting in Lebanon between Israel and the Iran-backed militant group Hezbollah, but Israeli strikes overnight have killed at least 18 people in southern Lebanon, hitting several populated towns in the Nabatea district early into Friday. The Israeli military says it struck Hezbollah militants and infrastructure and announced the death of 4 of its soldiers in southern Lebanon as fighting intensifies. Our correspondent Noga Tarnopolsky joins us from Jerusalem. Noga, in the last hour or so, we've heard some particularly inflammatory language coming from Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir in response to the deaths of those Israeli soldiers. He says all of Lebanon must burn. What do you make of these comments, and what can this mean going forward?
Well, Itamar Ben-Gvir is notorious and one of Prime Minister Netanyahu's most extremist ministers, and not somebody known to hold in his tongue. And he's one of the ministers who Vice President Vance had in mind when he said yesterday that the Netanyahu's cabinet should kind of stop criticizing Donald Trump. So we know who he is. He also has no impact on Israeli military decisions. He's the police minister, an internal minister. That said, what he's expressing, I'm guessing, are the feelings of most of Prime Minister Netanyahu's cabinet, who feel that their hands are now tied by the United States. The United States signed this MOU, which implies that Israel has to adhere to its terms, though Israel had nothing to do with its creation. It's a fairly flimsy MOU, and we really are seeing how just 2 days after it was signed, its principal terms seem to be coming apart. In other words, the United States got what it wanted in terms of the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, and President Trump, from his expressions, appears thrilled that crude oil prices are coming down fairly quickly. But in terms of everything else, Iran got its wishes and really, truly is presenting itself as a regional victor. The incidents of tonight that are ongoing now midday here in Israel and in Lebanon are a direct consequence of that. Iran is the sponsor of Hezbollah. And so while Iran, wearing suits, is negotiating with the U.S. or hopes to continue negotiating with the U.S., and knows that the U.S. president does not want it to reclose the Strait of Hormuz, Iran's military branch in Lebanon is attacking Israeli forces. Today it was a particularly, I would say, successful attack for Hezbollah, with 4 Israeli soldiers, including a senior officer, killed, an entire tank blown up either by an IED or by an anti-tank missile. I don't yet have details on that. And the Israeli government feels the need to respond, to retaliate. Those soldiers, per the Israeli government, those IDF soldiers in southern Lebanon, are stationed there to protect Israel's northern border. So in Israel, even among regular people, not in the Netanyahu cabinet, this is seen as soldiers having taken a bullet for the people, the residents of the Israeli north. It's a very, very complicated situation for Netanyahu, and it's unclear how he's going to find a way out of this mess, or whether the United States, as we just heard from the U.S. ambassador here to Israel, Huckabee, saying that Israel absolutely has the right to defend itself, and that the ceasefire will come into effect only when Hezbollah stops shooting. So if that sentiment made by the ambassador here is confirmed by the White House, we may be in a more contentious moment than we thought we were between the U.S. and Iran.
J.D. Vance had some pretty harsh words for Israel, though. Let's take a listen to that just now.
The message to them would be twofold. Number one, Donald J. Trump is the only head of state in the entire world who is sympathetic to the nation of Israel at this moment in time. And he happens to be the head of state of the world's superpower. If I was in the cabinet of the Israeli government, I might not be attacking the only powerful ally that I have anywhere left in the entire world.
So with that in mind, how far do you think Netanyahu is prepared to go here in terms of disobeying US orders?
That's a really excellent question. And honestly, this is a corner into which Prime Minister Netanyahu, despite many warnings, really painted himself into this corner. It was Prime Minister Netanyahu himself personally who chose to put all of Israel's diplomatic and security eggs in the Trump basket. It was Prime Minister Netanyahu who persuaded many, many Israelis, including those who are not in his fan base, that Israel would be able to be safe as long as he was in power because he had this magical friendship with Donald Trump. And that is simply blowing up in his face right now. J.D. Vance personally has never been a friend to Israel, but the circumstances now very clearly are that he is expressing his the peak and the anger of the American president against statements made by Netanyahu's closest cronies in the Israeli media and in politics. And Netanyahu is very hard pressed to find a way out that will assure Israelis he is safeguarding their protection and at the same time without really causing an absolute eruption with the White House, a rupture, if you will, that could put Israel in only greater security.